What up, people? 2024 is coming to a close, and it's been a lot of amazing games that were released this year, especially if you're a fan of RPGs. Whether it was action, turn-based, AAA, indie, remakes, or sequels, there are a lot of great games to choose from. And because of all that variety, just like last year, I'm going to make a list of the top 10 RPGs that came out this year so people can find some games that they might have missed out on or forgot about. But before we get started, I want to let people new to the channel know that I make videos about single-player games, and I usually focus on RPGs. If that type of content interests you and you've been enjoying this video, hit the like button to help spread this video around to other RPG fans. And now, here are the top 10 RPGs of 2024. First game I want to talk about is Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. The game was developed by Raven Bear Studios and was meant to be a spiritual successor to the Suikoden series. During combat, up to 6 units can be on your side of the battlefield at once, 3 in the front row and 3 in the back row. Every character has a range of either short, medium, and long, which will determine where and how far their attacks can reach. Keep in mind that certain units have to be up front or they literally can't attack, and units with lower defense like mages and healers should probably be left in the back. You know, basic RPG stuff. Magic in this game is used by equipping runes to your units in the available rune slots. As unit level increases, more slots will become available over time, and depending on the rune, you'll have a different set of abilities or spells. On top of the spells and basic combat moves, there are also big super moves called hero combos, which can be used when you have specific characters in your party. They won't all be the most effective, but with there being combos involving 2 all the way up to 6 characters, it'll be fun to try and see them all. My only real gripe I have with this game is that it seems like every boss fight has a gimmick to it that you have to deal with. Now, this isn't a bad thing necessarily, it's just something I personally don't like that much, but I'm sure others love it. If you're a fan of the old Suikoden games or just turn-based JRPGs in general, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is 100% worth picking up. At number 9, we have the remake of Dragon Quest III. This turn-based JRPG offers a modernized vision of the original title, which includes additional scenarios, story segments, modified stats, new spells, new vocations, battle tactics, and also settings for faster battles in general. My only experience with Dragon Quest is 11, but I enjoyed it so much that it piqued my interest in other games in the franchise. I heard there's a lot of grinding in the game and there isn't a lot of story involved, which are both kind of off-putting, but between the gameplay, music, and the great monster designs, Dragon Quest games all seem like they have this comfort food feel to them that I really appreciate. Speaking of gameplay, it's kind of random, but ever since I played a little bit of the Etrian Odyssey, I believe it's called Millennium Girl, on the 3DS, I like this whole first-person turn-based gameplay. We rarely get it nowadays, so it's just nice to see. The game has a Metacritic score of 84 with lots of fans praising the visuals and quality of life improvements. I really hate that I don't have time to play this one right now because of my backlog, but hopefully I'll have some time next year. But if you're looking for some old school RPG goodness with some modern day upgrades, give the Dragon Quest remake a try. Next up, we have Ys 10 Nordics. This action RPG was developed by Falcom and was released initially in Japan and was finally released worldwide in October of this year. This game takes place a month after Ys 2 and features series protagonist Adol as he gets introduced to the warrior Karja and the conflict between the Normans, her people, and monsters known as the Greiger. Unlike in previous Ys games, Nordics does away with the party system and this time has you playing as only 2 characters, Adol and Karja. Regarding combat, the game's newly introduced cross-action system allows a player to fight using solo and duo modes, which can be interchanged at any time. Solo mode is more fast-paced, allows you to play and switch between characters to keep up the attack on enemies, and also lets you automatically dodge attacks while utilizing dash moves. Adol and Karja both have different strengths to their attacks, so switching between them based off the enemy you're fighting will be important. Whereas duo or dual mode is slower and much more focused on power and building up your revenge gauge through guarding. On top of that, sometimes enemies will use power attacks which can be countered by using perfect guard while in dual mode, leading to the enemy losing balance and leaving them open for an onslaught of attacks, preferably back in solo mode. On average, the main story will take around 25 hours to get through, and add 20 more hours to that if you plan on doing a lot of the side content. Because the gameplay of Ys 10 looks so flashy and fun, it made me finally pick up Ys 8, which everyone says is the best game to get into the franchise. But if you're in the market for a flashy, fast-paced action RPG with some exceptional music, seriously guys, go listen to Throbbing Heartbeat. Then Ys 10 Nordic should be the next game you pick up. Sticking with action, coming in at number 7 is Black Myth: Wukong. This RPG was developed and published by Game Science, and in the game you'll be controlling the Destined One, a monkey protagonist based on Sun Wukong from the novel Journey to the West. Your weapon, which is a staff, has 3 different stances, which are Smash, Pillar, and Thrust. While fighting, you'll be managing resources such as Focus. Focus can be accumulated by landing light attacks, executing well-timed dodges, etc. A focus point is gained when the meter for focus is filled up, and these points can be used to initiate heavy attacks. Spells have cooldowns that consume mana, and they are categorized into mysticism, alteration, strand, and transformations. When you transform, it comes with their own movesets and health. They are available on cooldown, but they do not cost mana. They last until their might, which is depleted by attacking, or health runs out. While the game has a little bit of expiration to it, people who are fatigued with open worlds will be thankful that this game is mostly linear in its progression. Upon its release, Wukong has seen a considerable amount of success. It sold 18 million units in 2 weeks, reached 3 million concurrent players across all platforms, and also was nominated for Game of the Year. Now, while it didn't win, Black Myth: Wukong achieved accolades that even the developers probably didn't expect. So, if you want an action RPG that focuses a lot on one-on-one combat with a lot of lore behind it, this game has got you covered. Ending off the first half of this list, we have Unicorn Overlord. The game is a tactical RPG in which you'll take on the role of exiled Prince Elaine as he leads the Liberation Army in a campaign across the fantasy realm of Fevrith. During exploration, you'll be guiding Elaine across an overworld to enter towns, use blacksmiths and merchants to outfit his army, and engage in story and optional battles. Combat is split between movement of troops across large battlefields and combat when 2 units meet. All combat takes place in real time, but you can pause to change strategy and check on your units. Parties are made up of up to 5 characters with an assigned character class. During the early game, units are limited to 2 characters, but more character slots can be unlocked using the game's currency called honors. Battlefield settings include open field areas and urban environments such as towns and cities, which alter gameplay. Funny enough, while I do recommend this game to RPG fans, I didn't actually like it myself. I was really excited for the game, but once I played the demo, I realized it just wasn't for me. I discovered that when it comes to strategy, I don't really like real-time strategy games. I much prefer turn-based where I have time to think, and while I know you can pause the game, I think I was expecting more of a game similar to like Fire Emblem. But that's my fault and not the game's. Unicorn Overlord is a great example of a game that really benefits from having a demo for people to try out. While it sucks that I didn't personally like it, if this is the type of tactical game that you love to play, get ready to enjoy a strategy RPG that many fans have as their personal game of the year. Kicking off the top 5, we have the new and definitive Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. To give a brief description to people who may not know anything about the game, SMT5 is pretty much what you get if you took Pokemon and made it 100 times more difficult. The challenge is what many SMT fans enjoy about the games, and SMT5, the original, and Vengeance are no different. Now, as far as major additions to this new version, one of the biggest is a new story route called Canon of Vengeance. On top of that, other changes include over 40 new demons, more demon guys which help with exploration, more side quests, new game mechanics such as innate skills, all previous DLC, and lots of quality of life improvements. While the vanilla SMT5 was fun, I didn't really stick around with it for long for whatever reason. With all the content and enhancements added to Vengeance, my overall experience was so much better. As far as the RPGs I played this year, this was easily one of my favorites. I really became obsessed with getting new and stronger demons every time I reached a new level. The new innate skills are fun and added a whole new strategy to combat, as I found myself constantly looking for demons whose skills had good synergy from my 4-party lineup. While the new story hasn't been anything to write home about so far, it's doing enough to keep me engaged, but honestly, I'm mostly here for the Dark Souls Pokemon. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't think this game is worth it if you already played and beaten the first game, but for everyone else, I think SMT5 Vengeance is definitely worth your time. Just outside the top 3, we have Persona 3 Reload. This RPG was released in February and is a remake of Persona 3, which was released in 2006 and also the 4th main installment of the Persona series. Other than the modern graphics, there were a lot of added features to this remake in regards to social links and also combat. One of the new additions when it comes to combat was known as Shift, which is similar to Baton Pass for Persona 5, which involves the ability to switch between characters after hitting an enemy's weak point. Another cool mechanic is called Theurgy, which is a super move that can be utilized after filling up a player's gauge through Persona abilities and basic melee attacks. The speed of gauges filling up varies among characters based on different conditions being met, such as critical hits or using support skills. Also, not only can the move not be dodged, but it also ignores the resistances of the personas, so make sure you use it when you need to turn the tide in a big fight. Now, I'm a huge fan of Persona 5, and while not on that level overall, at least for me, Persona 3 Reload clicked with me pretty quickly, just like P5 did. The combat is fun, most of the side stories among social links with people around town in the school are compelling, and so far the overall story is shaping up to be even better than that of Persona 5. If you've never played a Persona game before and you're trying to dip your toe into the franchise, Persona 3 Reload is the perfect game for you. At number 3, we have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. This RPG is the 9th mainline entry of the Like a Dragon series, serving as a direct sequel to Yakuza Like a Dragon released in 2020, and is a spin-off of Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. In the game, players take control of Ichiban Kasuga and Kazuma Kiryu and their respective party members as they explore Japan and most notably Hawaii. Just like the first game, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is sticking with its turn-based combat. The game also allows players to select up to 4 characters in their party to fight a wide variety of enemies. Every playable character now possesses a ring denoting their area of movement and are now able to move freely during combat. The positioning of characters now heavily determines the flow of combat. Several minigames from previous entry returns such as karaoke, darts, mahjong, and arcade games, including Virtua Fighter 3TB, Sega Bash Fishing, and Spike Out. With this being a direct sequel, it is very much recommended that you play the first Like a Dragon. However, this game is also meant to be a send-off for Kiryu, and because of that, a lot of fans recommend you play the older Yakuza games in order to understand his full story as well. So to keep it simple, if you're someone who really cares about stories and character development, it'll probably be worth playing the older games before getting to this. And if you couldn't care less about story, you could just jump right into Infinite Wealth. At the very least, you should probably play Yakuza Like a Dragon first. But whether you decide to play the older titles or just start with this one, if there's one thing fans of Infinite Wealth and Yakuza fans in general can all agree on, is that you're guaranteed to enjoy yourself. Just missing out on the number 1 spot, we have the winner of RPG of the Year, Metaphor ReFantazio. While playing, one of the things I appreciated the most about Metaphor was the mature tone. If you play Shin Megami Tensei, you'll probably be used to the dark topics covered, but if you're coming from, say, Persona, then you might be a little surprised at the things the game tackles. Murder, prejudice, and classism are all topics covered throughout the game, and it's extremely refreshing, to say the least. Outside of the turn-based combat, there's also some real-time action as well. Before an enemy sees you, you can start attacking using the melee button in order to weaken and possibly stun the opponent. While attacking at any point you want to start the actual fight, you can hit the squad button and the turn-based combat will commence. Something I really like about this hybrid combat is that if you're much stronger than enemies, you can kill them with 1 or 2 melee attacks without having to switch to turn-based. This makes grinding and going through dungeons a lot less dreadful, and it's a very useful mechanic that more RPGs really need to utilize. The most unique thing in this game is what's known as archetypes, which is your party members becoming spiritual embodiments of heroes and kings. Different archetypes specialize in different things such as magic, healing, and melee attacks. Once one of your party members studies an archetype, any of the other party members can use it, so feel free to play around with different combinations. Seeing as how different enemies and dungeons are going to have different weaknesses that you need to exploit, it's going to be really important that you pick up archetypes that cover each other's weaknesses for better synergy. If it wasn't for the game at number 1, Metaphor ReFantazio would easily be my favorite RPG to come out this year, because everything from the amazing combat all the way down to the gorgeous art style is exceptional. The voice acting among the characters is amazing, and the story added on to that really makes you care about the group and all of their individual goals and issues. And don't even get me started on the incredible soundtrack that has no business being as good as it is. Whether you're a huge fan of turn-based RPGs or you've never tried one before, do yourself a favor and pick up the best one that's come out in 2024. With there being so many amazing RPGs coming out this year, here's a quick compilation showcasing some of the best ones that just didn't make the cut. And finally, at number 1, we have what's my personal game of the year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. When it comes to the combat, this game has probably some of the best I've experienced in any action RPG that I can remember playing. Usually with story-focused games, I enjoy the gameplay, but it typically takes a back seat to the story as far as my main investment. But with added mechanics such as synergy abilities, new materia, new weapon skills, along with added basic techniques like Cloud now being able to hit flying enemies, made it so I was constantly looking for enemies to fight, which rarely happens with me in games. Plus, the story is not only just as good as Remake, for me it's even better. While we already knew about Red from the first game, being able to learn more about him while also getting so many great moments for Barret, Tifa, Cloud, and especially Aerith, you feel like you really know these characters, and it makes the events that happen in the story that much more impactful. And while the main story and fights are good, where this game really shines for me is its side content. Whether it's playing Queen's Blood, mini games, fighting summons, or just doing the regular side missions, this game gives so much extra content to choose from, and very little of it feels like a waste of time. Everything feels like it's worth it afterwards, whether the war was some weapon, a strong card, or just a good character moment that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. The fact they packed all this into a $70 game is beyond impressive, and I can honestly say it's worth every penny. And I don't say that about a lot of games, $70 or not. After finishing my 119-hour playthrough, I can honestly say that other than The Witcher 3 and The Last of Us, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is easily my favorite game of all time. Between the addicting combat, well-written story, exceptional soundtrack, and all the quality side content provided, there's not much to dislike about this game, at least for me. Now, whether you decide to play the original FF7 first, start with Remake, or just jump right into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, if there's one thing I can say is that you definitely shouldn't pass up on what, in my opinion, is one of the best RPGs ever made. Alright, that's it for me guys. What RPGs did you play and enjoy this year? Even if they're not new, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. If you want to see more videos with me covering RPGs, the playlist will be in the description, or you can just click one of the links on the screen. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with the channel. Later.